is WCPO 9 News.
Thanks for joining us for WCPO 9 News. I'm Tanya O'Rourke. Here's a look at some of today's top stories. A deadly fire in Roselawn leads to a charge of aggravated murder. Firefighters found 2 victims, a man and a woman, when they arrived at Sparkle Drive early Tuesday morning. 56-year-old Edward Jones later died. The woman's condition was described yesterday as serious. Now 57-year-old William Cook is charged in the case, including aggravated arson, along with that aggravated murder charge. And one of 2 7-year-old girls hit by a car on Vine Street Tuesday has now died. Police say the girls ran into the street near Erman Avenue and were not in a crosswalk. The accident closed that part of Vine Street for much of the afternoon. The other girls' injuries were not as serious. Police said the 17-year-old who was driving the car did not appear to be going too fast or be impaired. Officers add he is cooperating with investigators. A Cincinnati councilman has concerns about the new Dora area at the banks. Over the weekend, it was packed with people, many of them not following social distancing rules. It was the first big weekend for the designated outdoor refreshment area, where you can buy drinks and you can carry them around outside. David Mann's motion would require the administration to evaluate the zone. He says the city can't risk providing opportunities for the virus to spread. Cincinnati's playing a key role in expanding the COVID-19 vaccine to children under 16. 5 to 11-year-olds are now part of the Pfizer trial at Cincinnati Children's. 8 children are taking part. That trial was extended to 16-year-old volunteers back in October of 2020, then 12 to 15-year-olds later that month. And the hospital was one of the sites that began a clinical trial of the vaccine with adult volunteers in May of 2020.
Hi there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Raleigh, and my highs today, it is going to be cold. Temps in the low 50s, about 20 degrees colder than what we had yesterday. Tonight, we have a freeze warning as my temps fall to the mid to upper 20s. Then for tomorrow for the game, well, we go from the 51 to the 39 for opening day. Temperatures start turning around Friday afternoon after another freeze warning for our Thursday night here in the tri-state.
WCPO 9 News reporter Jake Ryle here. $9,000 could be coming back into your wallet soon. FEMA will begin providing financial assistance for funeral expenses of those who've lost loved ones to COVID-19, dating all the way back to January 20th of last year. Now I'm explaining the steps you can take to see if you're eligible for the funding.
For Rita Brock, it's been a year of change.
It's brought us together. We keep up with each other even better.
We first met Rita 1 year ago. Her mother, Lois Hampton, died, and her grandson, Liam, was born, all within a 24-hour period, all in the beginning of the pandemic.
It was really a tough couple weeks, trying to help her with the baby and then trying to help her with the grieving. And
some who couldn't attend her mother's funeral, including Rita's dad, had to watch through the lens of a camera.
So before all of this took place, were you aware of how expensive funeral arrangements could be on a family?
It costs more to die than it costs to live almost. And for those who are left living, to have to deal with the grief.
She knows her family is lucky. Her parents took care of their own funeral arrangements.
You have to have a $9,000, $10,000, $15,000 fee that you had to deal with. It just makes the grief so much worse, having to figure out how to pay for that.
FEMA says help is on the way. Here's what you should know. To be eligible, the applicant must have incurred funeral expenses after January 20th of last year for a death attributed to COVID-19. The assistance is capped at $9,000 per funeral and up to $35,500 per application. The death had to happen on U.S. soil. And here's what you should get together right now. You'll need an official death certificate, and it must indicate that the death may have been caused by or was likely the result of COVID-19. Make sure you grab funeral expense documents, receipts, and the funeral home contract. After a long year, Brock says the light is in view.
People can work through anything if they just have hope and, just believe that things can get better.
Jake Ryle, WCPO 9 News.
I'm WCPO 9 News reporter Kristen Swilley. Brain surgery can obviously be a life-altering procedure for those who need to undergo it, but one UC neurosurgeon is making sure patients are still able to look like themselves.
I don't feel like anything was super out of the ordinary, at least from my own perspective.
But through the eyes of someone in her care, the labor and delivery nurse got a life-saving observation.
Went into a patient's room and was apparently repeating myself. I don't remember doing that.
That patient told another nurse, prompting Howell to schedule an MRI that led to life-changing news.
I think she said extensive and life-changing. And that's really all that I remember.
Days later, she began treatment with Dr. Matthew Garrett.
When I first met Chantal, she had a very large part of her brain involved with a low-grade glioma.
But the news wasn't all bad. He was able to remove the worst part of the tumor that appeared to be progressing, meaning he could start the process of helping her live with it, and he could save Howell's long hair.
On the pediatric side, almost always hair is preserved on the head if possible.
It's a way to help keep spirits high and help people feel normal, something he thought adults could use too, and many patients now prefer. Garrett says shaving the entire head was traditionally done to prevent infection, but with proper care, surgeons have learned it can be avoided.
There's a lot to process and deal with when you're facing a cancer diagnosis, and I didn't have to walk around wearing it on my head, at least not initially. So I think that was helpful.
Howell says she did go on to lose much of her hair due to radiation, but as you can see, grew right back. She's now stable, and she's encouraging other patients to talk to their doctor about this option. Reporting at UC Medical, Kristen Spilley, WCPO 9 News.
The trial for former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin continues today, with witnesses testifying about what they saw the day George Floyd died.
Was there any point in your video, whether it's 9 or 10 minutes, that Mr. Chauvin ever let up or got up off of the neck of Mr. Floyd that you saw?
No, if anything, he actually was kneeling harder. Looked like he was shoving his knee in his neck.
Chauvin faces murder and manslaughter charges. He's accused of causing George Floyd's death in May of 2020, which triggered worldwide protests and calls for justice for George Floyd. The World Health Organization believes the novel coronavirus, which causes COVID-19, probably spread to people through an animal. The WHO believes COVID-19 was only spreading among humans for a month or two before it was noticed in December 2019. 14 governments, including the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, Japan, Norway, and the Republic of Korea, have expressed concern with the WHO's report. They are calling for an independent, transparent, and accessible evaluation into the origins of COVID-19 in China.
There are steps from here that we believe should be taken. There's a second stage in this process that we believe should be led by international and independent experts. They should have unfettered access to data. They should be able to ask questions of people who are on the ground.
The report from the World Health Organization also found that it's extremely unlikely that the virus was introduced into society through a laboratory incident. Additional Customs and Border Protection agents are being sent to the U.S.-Mexico border to provide support amid an influx in migrants. According to government data, Border Patrol agents encountered more than 100,000 migrants in February alone.
Going to summer camp is a rite of passage for many kids. Last year, COVID forced many camps to remain closed, but this year is shaping up to be different, as reservations at summer camps are already up. For 13-year-old Piper Warner, home is with her family, and then there's summer camp.
It's almost like your second home.
That second home is here at Apple Farm Arts Camp, a charter school that turns into an overnight stay arts camp in the summer. But last summer, during what would have been the camp's 60th year, COVID restrictions made it impossible to open. Piper's mom, Nicole Warner.
I mean, it was hard because, summer camp is part of who she is.
I was pretty disappointed.
But this year...
So we just got a green light.
Corey Solomon is the executive director of the camp in southern New Jersey. She says while the governor gave summer camps the go-ahead, Apple Farms will only be operating at 50% capacity.
We've had a planning committee happening since last summer to figure out what do we need to do to ensure children could safely come here for our overnight at camp experience.
According to the American Camp Association, across the country, only a handful of states so far are not allowing overnight summer camps this year. But in several other states, it's more complex and left up to each individual county to decide. Where summer camps are happening,
our phone is ringing off the hook.
Demand appears strong, not just from kids.
I was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is great. I'm like so excited for this.
But especially their parents.
I saw it come up and I was like, oh, summer camp, yes, you're going, like click, 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 send.
And for the Warner family, a chance to return to something familiar.
My husband had been diagnosed with colon cancer last year, so on top of him being sick, she just lost this, and this was what she looked forward to. He's healthy again, he's great, but now knowing that she has this place to turn to this summer and reconnect with all the things she lost is really going to be amazing.
A summer experience that's waiting just around the corner. In Elmer, New Jersey, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
There's been a series of high-profile hate crimes aimed at Asian Americans around the country in recent weeks. Now a trained martial artist is offering lessons in self-defense to help potential victims gain more self-confidence.
They are scared, they want to be equipped, they want to learn self-defense.
From pushing an elderly person in the back in the Bay Area to a string of shootings at massage parlors in Metro Atlanta, attacks on Asian Americans across the country have Yune Mello more concerned for her safety.
With the recent events, it's very disheartening.
Despite the physical violence directed at her community, Mello refuses to live in fear.
My heart is for there be more unity and more self-confidence.
Now she's learning how to better protect herself by training in martial arts.
It could be something as simple as like an arm lock, or even hitting them in vulnerable parts of their body that can help save you and even save your life.
Katerina Buenviave is the founder of Kicks, a nonprofit teaching self-defense classes online for free.
In light of the recent events that have been happening with the Asian American community, we wanted to just open it up to just all community members through Zoom.
These workouts focus on the fundamentals of Taekwondo. And while Kicks does teach people how to fight for themselves, Buenviave says the best defense is actually avoiding conflict.
Instead of learning how to retaliate, we learn how to de-escalate situations to promote unity and peace and nonviolence.
For Mello, training with Kicks has helped her both physically and mentally.
It's not just about, punches and kicks, but also the mindset of self-confidence and being able to defend yourself if needed be.
9. And with more people now looking to learn self-defense, Kicks is adding more classes for all backgrounds.
Front leg roundhouse.
The least that I could do is just bring some sort of knowledge and skill and awareness and empower the different communities.
I'm Kai Beach reporting.
As the cannabis industry grows across the U.S., researchers are looking into the carbon footprint of the plant, but some farms, like the one here, are finding a way to remain environmentally friendly.
On the western slope of the Rocky Mountains sits a cannabis farm 8,200 feet in elevation. When there's still snow on the ground, you have to take a buggy up the muddy road to get there.
We're going to drive up this road, make a couple corners, and you'll see the fence of the grow and the whole plantation on that.
Awesome. The trek was maybe a bit muddier than we expected, but once you're at the top, you have mountain views and a whole lot of green. Pot Zero is owned by Rob Trotter and his wife.
The zero part of it is that we are zero carbon footprint. And that's kind of a big deal, I think, in the marijuana world these days, because folks are going to start to find out that the indoor growing and greenhouse growing is extremely energy consumptive.
Pot Zero is a once-a-year outside grow. Vegetative growth is 3 inches per day in the middle of summer because of the sun's high intensity at their elevation. But cannabis grown indoors is a whole other world.
You can control that indoor climate so well that you can really dictate the product.
Research on the environmental impact of cannabis grown indoors has been quite limited, but a new study led by graduate student Haley Summers is uncovering the carbon footprint of the rapidly growing cannabis industry in the U.S.
We found that generally your climate control systems, so your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, were the largest source of emissions, and then it was high-intensity grow lights, and then a material input of carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is actually pumped into indoor facilities to increase photosynthetic rates, so to get your plants to grow bigger, faster, and just generate more product.
When mapping the regions with the highest greenhouse gas emissions, Haley says the Colorado Rockies and Midwest were more concentrated than coastal areas.
But the weather plays a big role because plants need a constant supply of fresh air, and that fresh air comes from the outside. So if you're in Colorado, for example, and it's cold, you have to treat that air to get it to be comfortable for the plant, and that takes a lot of energy.
But what if that energy came from a renewable source? This is called a hydroelectric turbine. Rob says it's been powering his farm since 1993.
It drops 170 feet from a quarter mile up above to here. So it's as if you're 170 feet down in the ocean right now. Your pressure at that point would be about 70 pounds of pressure.
He says the energy from the turbine is what powers all his lights and fans, 28 years for his home and 6 years for Pot Zero. Rob says he hopes other pot growers will follow his lead, especially considering they would save money in the process. With photojournalist Luis Ramirez, I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
The IRS says expect economic impact payments for those who don't normally file a tax return to be issued this week. Internal Revenue officials say the majority of those particular payments will be sent electronically. The IRS has begun reviewing and testing tons of millions of records to ensure eligibility and proper calculation of the payments. Some current and former college students are getting another financial break from President Joe Biden. The White House is keeping payment of educational loans on hold for more than 1 million borrowers. This pause does not apply to those who have not defaulted on their loans. Congressional Democrats have called on Biden to forgive $50,000 in federal student loan debt per borrower, but the president has been resistant to that action.
Hi there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Raleigh, and good morning as we look at your Wednesday. It's going to be a cold day around here. Temperatures start off in the 40s, and I've got highs only around 50 degrees for the afternoon, so we're going to be about 20 degrees colder than yesterday. We have a chance for rain today under some partly to mostly cloudy skies. For tonight, the big story is the freeze warning. I've got temperatures falling to the mid to upper 20s by our Thursday morning. It's going to be a really frosty start around here. And for that matter, it's looking really cold for the ball game on Thursday. Take a look at opening day in my forecast. I have temperatures only reaching the upper 30s. It'll be a bit breezy, so it'll feel even colder than that under partly cloudy skies. So my 9-day forecast, 51 to 28 tonight, then 39 for the game tomorrow, down to 23. Expect another freeze warning in effect, and then things turn around for the weekend.
Maybe you've had the Mondays before, but what about the Sunday scaries?
That's that really crazy, anxious feeling that you get on Sunday nights.
Dr. Maria Church, author of Love-Based Leadership, has a few tips on how to not only survive, but thrive in a fear-based workplace. Starting with reconnect with your why.
There's something that propelled you to fill out the application. Something was there that energized you to do the interview.
Ask yourself why you wanted that job in the first place and write down those reasons.
Then it makes it not just bearable, but can actually make it enjoyable.
Next, leverage your skills in other ways.
It just infuses this new, vibrant, exciting kind of energy into the work that they're doing.
If you're artistic, but you don't get to show it, ask if you can do something creative.
A lot of organizations are actually doing this very formally now by creating skills matrices.
Skill matrices keep track of employees' different skills that can be used elsewhere in the company.
So it really is like a win-win for the people that get to do something that they're really good at.
At number 3, if things are really getting to you, don't forget to take a break.
Over 50% of the U.S. workforce did not use all their vacation days.
And 10% of Americans don't even take any days off.
We're experiencing burnout, lack of productivity.
So use those days, whether it's the occasional 3-day weekend or a midweek break.
And when you're done with work, be done with work. Unplug.
Finally, be authentically you.
When we're not authentically you, that means that we are intentionally trying to be someone that someone else thinks we should be.
This can lead to resentment and burnout, so don't be scared to be you.
We want different ideas and different perspectives so that we can do our job better.
Learning how to leave the fear behind at work.
We're closing in on what's normally prom season for high school seniors, but for a second year, there's a lot of discussion over whether it's safe for proms to happen. Guidelines vary from school to school and from state to state. That means every district will have its own solution. For many, prom will be canceled once again.
Nothing is going to compare to a prom.
Across the country, some parents and students are pushing back by planning non-school sponsored events.
We are aware that there's a prom celebration that's being planned out in the community.
One parent in Arizona is concerned about these private gatherings.
I think it's reckless. I really do. I feel like we're not in a safe place still.
Other schools are working with students to find safer ways to celebrate, like in Jensen Beach, Florida.
As a group of officers, we've been proposing ideas that we think would get approved by the district.
The CDC has not issued an exact guidance for proms, but it encourages all large events to happen virtually or outdoors.